Jai Hind viewers, we come back to you again with another interview with a very, very eminent uh, persona who is leading guide for us in the MRO Digest Forums. Lt Gen NB Singh served as Director General of the Corps of Electronics and Mechanical Engineers, Director General Information Systems, and was a founding member of the Armed Forces Tribunal, Jabalpur. He specializes in armored fighting vehicles and played a key role in the design and development of a bulletproof vehicle Takshak, Arjun armored recovery vehicle, and made significant contribution in the development of the Dhanush gun system. He has undergone specialized training in Germany on off-highway vehicles and served in Moscow as military attaché technical. MRO Digest Forums, the word MRO, which you see, has actually come from, it came in, I got to know about it for the first time ever while I was in service, when I attended a seminar which General NB Singh organized. And for the first time, I heard this term being used in all systems, land systems, marine systems, and also in aviation. And from that day onwards, this has stayed with me because I felt that this was maybe a need which was addressed in that seminar for the first time ever. And right from the time when I made this MROdigest.com, which is our first site where we compile news, from that time onwards, I have been always seeking the guidance of General NB Singh. And he is our patron in all our efforts on our platform. And we always look at him before we step in any particular direction. And he's always, guided us. And that's how we have reached where we are today. He has, we have had the privilege of having him as our keynote speaker on all our webinars. And we have conducted 2 webinars in India, and one we have conducted an international webinar. He has given a talk where he was interviewed by Brigadier YVR Vijay, who's another one of our members, on military technology cooperation between the friendly nations. And he has, we have had the privilege of having him in our panel discussions on 2 topics. There is artificial intelligence in MRO and electric drives in armored fighting vehicles. We are very thankful to him that though he is in the US for a visit there, he has joined us today for this interview. Thank you very much for that, sir. Sir, may I start by asking you that what are your impressions on the journey of MRO Digest Forums over the past 1 year, and what we had set out to create and where we have reached, General NB, sir?
Thank you, Justej. Good evening to you and to all the viewers. It's a great privilege to be back once again on the MRO Digest Forum, giving this or carrying out this little discussion between the 2 of us. So I will say that it has been great going, for the past 1 year. It's been a little, I will say, fast pace for retired guys like us. And I feel that we have covered a reasonable amount of ground over the past 1 year. You will recall that when we were doing some prelim discussions regarding before setting up of the MRO forum, because before that we had that MROdigest.com where articles and other inputs were being posted. But when you discussed about the creation of this forum, the primary aim which we set out for ourselves was to create a meeting place or a platform for military maintainers, or I generally refer to them as the military's industrial engineers, a common meeting place where they could exchange their ideas, their experiences, share their knowledge for the general good of everyone. Because my experience in the military and in the army, particularly, has been that MRO issues are generally papered over and left for the successor to resolve. Because everyone feels, it is capital intensive, it is very complex. So it's better to leave it. And I feel that this problem is there because of a lack of awareness amongst the entire community. So if you take the acquisition community, if they are informed that, look, supporting a new acquisition will cost you 3 to 4 times the acquisition cost over the life cycle, I'm sure they would make plans for it and make the budgetary provisions. Similarly, if the finance guy knows that if he doesn't include the MRO requirements at this stage, besides the readiness issues, he will have to pay 5 times this cost, maybe 5 to 10 years later. He will not allow that acquisition to go through. And this has actually happened in a particular case where we ended up paying 5 to 6 times of what we would have paid had we included those requirements at the time of acquisition. The ops guy, possibly because he has been so busy with CICT operations for the past 3 decades, he's generally not aware of the operational consequences of these gaps. If he knows that, look, in any future operations, my spearheads will also land up in a similar situation as what happened to the Russian forces around Kiev. Possibly he will also not, leave this whole issue to be resolved by the next TGMO. So this is the basic problem of lack of awareness, lack of knowledge, and we maintainers have not been able to put it across emphatically, I feel. Similarly, you take the case of technology transfer. We have had last, I say around 5 decades, we have had so many of these. We have taken 3 technology transfers for tanks, one for the infantry combat vehicle, several TOTs for radars, several TOTs for missiles. And every time it was the DPSUs, the managers there who were responsible to decide on the content and extent of TOT. Neither the operators nor the maintainers were ever asked to give their input. And so everything was from a point of view to hasten production, to hasten manufacture, because the moment you start manufacturing, you start earning revenues. Now, if the DPSU people had been told that, look, you will earn several times more in supporting this system than you are earning in selling it, possibly he would have focused, in the stride on localization and indigenization, which he has not done. And as a result of that, huge amount of capability gaps uh, have occurred now, especially after this war, because the single source of supply now itself is in a tailspin. So, taking into account all this, we felt that there was a strong reason for the MRO community to get together, consolidate their experiences, both their documented and pragmatic knowledge, share it for the overall good of our organizations, where we have given, roughly 4 decades of our life in service of the nation. Now, I must compliment you the way that you went about setting it up with total dedication, putting in a lot of painstaking effort. The quality of articles being posted, the quality of videos, podcasts, and other inputs being put there, and the type of discussions we are generating is all, very heartening to see. Uh, Hats off to Rahul also for providing the entire backend support for this forum. And I feel that in the days ahead, uh, if we plan our work and our initiatives correctly, the coming 2 decades, where everyone is talking about India being on the rise and entering the community of the first world, uh, we will be in a position to make positive contribution in this journey of the nation.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. Those very encouraging words, and thank you for guiding us. In fact, and it's with your guidance and your coming forth, in spite of your busy schedule, I know you have always come forth and helped us every time. I have yet to come. I can't remember a day when you said no to a request. So, so we are very grateful for that, and all our members, sir, who have also responded, and we are very, very grateful for that indeed. So, in your just what you just mentioned, you talked about the war in Ukraine. So, don't you think, sir, that it has demolished the myth of short, swift wars? A stronger power can calibrate the duration and tempo of war to suit its interest. So, in your view, sir, what are the major lessons for the military's MRO professionals from this war, sir? LNB, sir?
Yeah, this war there has certainly demolished this kind of a mindset which was prevailing in our military, that future wars will be short and swift, and the major powers of the world or the international organizations will somehow intervene and broker a peace. Now, it is seen that if one of the parties is a strong power or a superpower, it is always in a position to calibrate both the tempo of operations and the duration of operations to suit its national interest and its capacities of war waging. Now, this has strong relevance in our security landscape too, and therefore, I think this is one of the main reasons why we need to rev up this setting up of our defense industrial base. And I can point out that the chief of the army staff also made a mention of this during the last India Today conclave. Uh, and therefore, it is very important that we move towards, establishing a versatile defense industrial base, powering our military with homegrown technologies and homegrown systems. Else, the staying power of our soldiers and formations will dissipate in the first few weeks of the war, as has been seen. Now, unlike CICT operations, uh, conventional military operations, uh, as we have seen, are characterized by very high attrition rates. Possibly the kind of attrition which we have seen in this war in Europe was never seen earlier, except for maybe World War II. And even industrialized nation like Russia is finding it very difficult to make up the daily losses which are taking place. The case of Ukraine, of course, is well known. Its entire defense industrial base seems to have been wiped out, and it is relying on platforms being provided by the other nations. And there again, I will refer to the statement of the army chief of the German army, who mentioned that the state in which his army was, and they not being in a position to even provide the platforms that you have agreed or promised to provide. So all this has got a lot of important lessons for us, because we can visualize that in a similar situation with all these vintage platforms and legacy systems, what will be the kind of staying power we will have. So therefore, I think this is one of the biggest lesson for us. And in our future planning, we have to enmesh both the aspect of maintenance surge as well as industrial surge to be able to support the war effort. Now, this is the reason why military planners have to understand the difference between garage availability and pulse availability. something which was referred to by the German chief when he mentioned, that large number of equipment were there on the inventory, but very few of them were mission capable. So this fact has to be understood, and all efforts have to be made to see that, each and every platform which you have in your inventory is able to deliver the desired equipment capability when the requirement comes. It should not be that, you have a handful of them who are first enclosure types in a typical cross-country run, and the rest of them are all stragglers and seventh enclosure types. Then you know that what kind of impact your forces will be able to create on the battlefield. So I feel that this war has highlighted the importance of MRO, both close support and deep support. And unlike what has been happening in the past, it is time that we MRO professionals talk about it, discuss about it, put it across to our friends who are still in service, and hope that in the years ahead we focus in making improvements and not giving the kind of treatment that MRO has been given in the years that have gone by.
Thank you very much, sir, for those insights. And so you have mentioned in your what you just said just now that MRO professionals are playing, sort of a role, let's say, for turbocharging the Make in India. So can you just elaborate on that, on the specifics of this, sir? Sir?
Yeah. See, I have always maintained that in the defense industrial field, it is very important that if you want to carry out sustained all-round capability development, a systems view is very important. The systems view was absent in the DPSUs, and that is a result that we find a lot of capability voids today. Now, just to give you an example, you see, after taking 3 TOTs for tanks, now when it comes to the development of the light tank, we are still scouting around the world, looking for the power pack, the mobility system, the fire control system, the main armament, almost everything. So which means that when we were taking these TOTs, the systems view was missing. Now, what is the systems view? The systems view is an operational view, an engineering view, and a logistic view combined together. Now, an MRO guy, by virtue of the kind of work he does, is very well versed with the basic operation of the machine. He knows how the machine is to be operated, how it fires, how it is wired. He also has the complete engineering view because he knows what are the systems which are working, what are the interfaces, what are the hardwares and softwares, and which are the areas which need special attention, and what needs to be done to prevent failures. He also has a logistics view because he also knows that these are the resources which have to be placed at this location and that location for me to be able to sustain this machine and keep up, make it function in a reliable condition. So with all these experiences available to him, I think he is in a very good position to provide the required guidance and mentoring to the industry when it comes to setting up of a defense industry base. Unfortunately, when we find that he's the only guy who's possibly missing in the entire team in most of the places, and he also has an experience of running industrial units because in his service he has run the Army's industrial base or the Air Force and Navy's industrial base, the naval dockyards, the base workshops, the BRDs. So he's also well versed with the manufacturing and remanufacturing intricacies. What are the basic requirements in an assembly line? What are the quality control requirements? What are the testing requirements? So all in all, he is very well suited to take on this job. And just to give you an example, let us say if an assembly line for a new combat vehicle is to be set up, well, he's the guy who is in a best position to actually, because he has got his experiences, he has seen several of these lines, so he's in a position to guide the industry in how to go about doing this. Similarly, if a greenfield MRO project is to be set up for any kind of platform, he's the right guy to be approached, because by virtue of the experiences he has had, he'll be in a position to provide a cost and operationally effective solution, and this will prevent national wastages, because today we see so all of them trying to get a share in the pie. A lot of effort and expenditure is being carried out with hardly any results. So that is why I have all along maintained that the MRO professionals are very well placed, and wherever they have been involved and associated, they have produced excellent results. You take the missile, famous missile program of the DRDO, and the last Dr. Abdul Kalam is on record in his books to say how he is commented on the project management capabilities of a lot of erstwhile EME officers who worked in these programs, Prithvi and Agni and all. So I've always maintained this view, and I feel that if the industry looks up to these professionals, they will gain enormously.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And now coming back a little bit to our platform, sir, what do you think is the way forward for MRO Digest Forums, related to the given defense industrial environment in the country, sir?
Well, currently, as we see, the forum's reach is restricted to a select audience of MRO personnel and those who are interested in the activities. And generally, we are reaching them through the medium of articles, interviews, videos, podcasts, etc., and trying to convey information, ideas, experiences, sharing it with them. All this is about disseminating knowledge, and in this process, the receiver gets the inputs which possibly he's looking at, and the professional who is participating in these discussions gets an exposure and possibly creates a brand for himself. But I would like to go beyond this, and I would rather like to develop the brand MRO forum. And what is this brand MRO forum? I feel we need to look at it as a kind of a think tank on technology and defense industry issues, a kind of a knowledge-based organization encompassing all three: defense technology, defense industrial base, and of course, in that comes the MRO. So let's not restrict ourselves exclusively to MRO issues. We should be able to create a niche for ourselves, and with a lot of reputation, and contribute positively to the Make in India effort of the government. I feel that there is overall in the defense industrial base, there is a net knowledge deficit, there is a net capability deficit, and a net capacity deficit, and it is there to see. And we should be in a position to plug these gaps by creating amongst us, people with strong systems engineering know-how, people with knowledge of various disciplines of technology, setting up of manufacturing units, setting up of MRO enterprises. If we are able to create this kind of specialization in our forum, then I feel that, the coming 2 decades will be something, it will be kind of a very fascinating journey for all of us, and especially for the MRO forum. And if, let us say, this effort of ours succeeds the way it has succeeded, uh, say, for a country like Israel and China, well, the net result will be your MSMEs becoming prosperous, your defense industry, getting orders not only from India and abroad, your component manufacturers also prospering. So all round, you will find that the overall uh, comprehensive national power of the country will improve, and you will end up contributing substantially to the country's economic well-being. Now, I can just quote the example of these 2 countries, Israel for one, and China. Now, all these 2 countries were in a similar condition as we were in the 1970s. And Israel then, after Yom Kippur, decided to go ahead with self-reliance. And they followed the human capital intensive approach, where they trained most of their manpower within the military, because if you know that they have a system in which it is compulsory drafting for 2 years. So all these people came in, learned the technologies which were contemporary in service, went back, joined the industry, and contributed. The entire ICT corridor between Haifa and Tel Aviv, which is there, if you go and see, it is full of ex-IDF members who have come out, with game-changing innovations. In fact, there is one high-tech unit of theirs called Unit 8200, which has played a major role in training these professionals who went out and then set up either their own startups or joined some industries. And you see a very fine balance, a kind of a very good cooperation between the public sector and the private sector there. You see, and this is all which I have been propagating, that it is not, this field is not a field of competition, but a field of collaboration. So whatever capabilities the public sector has got, whatever gaps they have got, those gaps need to be filled up by the private sector, rather than the private sector attempting to replace the public sector. So you find that, alongside IMI, IAI, you have a large number of private industries flourishing in Israel. In the case of China, at the same time, they also in the late 70s decided to go ahead, and they followed that approach of what we call as reverse engineering, or IDAR, which is import, digest, absorb, and re-innovate. And they started off with, introducing new technologies in old Soviet systems, and later on they went upon to manufacture their own weapon systems. So these 2 examples are there. We can pick up any one of them and move ahead. Apart from that, coming specifically to the MRO domain, you see, if today if we take a call that, okay, having published these 4 indigenization lists, now remember that these lists have been published by the DPSUs, the items which they used to be importing from abroad. And if you see all of them, you really get horrified to see that this is the kind of dependency we had on foreign sources. Now, for the military or the MRO professionals in the military, it will be worthwhile to pick up those components and those sub-assemblies which they feel are readiness linked, which they will be needing in the case of any combat, or to keep the system up and running. And if these limited number of components and assemblies, they can take up on a mission mode and along with the MSMEs going for indigenization, I think a huge amount of the requirements, day-to-day requirements, which are needed to keep a platform operational, can be easily met. So I feel that in all these three areas, we as a forum can really contribute and help build up brand MRO forum rather than building up individual brands. So this is my main suggestion as far as the way forward is concerned.
Thank you very much, sir. That's very for that vision which you have given us, and I'm sure we will be working towards it. Whenever I have read your articles, even much before you have been writing, and we actually got this whole thing together. I have always found that your grasp of very strong, high-level grasp of the knowledge of the worldwide industrial bases, the knowledge of how other countries are handling it. I feel that's a gold mine. You can really see the quality of advice which is available within MRO Digest Forums, our members. And I'm sure if you reach out to us, we would be able to, General NB will advise you and guide you. And so you said this term which you used, that this is an area not of competition but of collaboration. I think that's a major point which strikes me as yes, indeed, because in these very crucial areas, collaboration is the way to go forward. And what examples you have given seem to show that where collaboration has happened, and where, like you gave examples of veterans contributing because of their knowledge and collaborating in a way, amazing results have followed. And this very concept which you have just given, I am sure some of our viewers, if they can latch onto it, it can be lead to amazing results. So, sir, you being our patron, we look up to you for guidance, and in line with that, may I request you to propose some specific areas in which MRO Digest Forums can make forays in the days ahead and create a unique space for itself, sir?
Yeah, certainly. Yes, certainly. I feel that there are a couple of areas where we should create some unique capabilities for ourselves, because that is the way to expand and move forward. Now, first of all, I feel that with the immense amount of tacit and pragmatic knowledge which is available with our members, we should be in a position to establish a cost-effective and an operational effective, MRO framework for the military, because as you know that we are now going in for the integrated theater commands. So hopefully the engineering support also will get integrated, especially for the systems that are being used by all the three services. For example, UAVs, missiles, surveillance devices, radars, and even in some areas, certain kind of platforms. So it will be a very good thing if we can work on creating this and possibly incorporating best practices like CBM, like reliability-centric maintenance, readiness-based sparing, the use of AI and all which we have discussed. So, and also incorporate in it a kind of a PPP model, because I think the biggest problem today, as I told you, is the private industry looking at taking away the work which is being done by either the public sector or the army's own or the military's own defense industry base. Now, rather than doing this, I feel, as I mentioned, that it is the time for collaboration, for sharing the work and creating the required industrial and maintenance surge within the defense industry base. On their own, the industry will not be able to do it, because I told you that there is a net knowledge deficit, a capability deficit, and a capacity deficit. So today, if you say that, okay, an industry be allowed to set up a greenfield project for overhaul of tanks, I'm certain they will not be in a condition to do that, because it's such a complex system, so many technologies integrated together, and to give you a machine which is capable of working in the toughest of environment, it's not an easy job. And fortunately, all this is available with the public sector. When I say the public sector, I also mean the military's defense industry base. So if we can evolve a PPP model, then possibly, our maintenance fraternity, especially in the army, which has always been kept in a tailspin, courtesy recommendations of committees like Shakatkar and all. This committee should have actually recommended how to do more with less. Instead, it ended up recommending closure of certain entities. And look what has happened. Just 2 years later, you are in a situation where you feel that, these entities are certainly required, and they would have created what a great, advantage in force ratios they could create in their respective theaters. So instead of, being victim to these kind of committees' recommendation, if we can ab initio plan a system which is efficient and cost effective, and maybe share it with our colleagues, it will be of great practical consequence to them and, of course, the country. The second one is that, it is time now that we get a rich collection of articles which are posted by you from all over the world. I feel it's time that some of our members also get together and, write small, maybe, 1,000-word, 500-word article expanding on an idea, so that, we start looking at homegrown ideas and procedures which can add to the overall value of the MRO forum. As I mentioned, the third point is to assist in the establishment of a versatile defense industrial base. How we can help it there, I gave you the two examples, and how we MRO professionals should take up the role of a facilitator or a mentor, especially to the small scale sector, and help them in in localizing the supply chain, localizing components, and also preparing for the next generation future combat systems. Take the case of the light tank now. Almost everything in that, except possibly the steel being used, the armored, the rolled homogeneous armor being used, most of the other things, in all likelihood, will be through imports. Now, fine, if we don't have the capability, this is the only way forward, so we do it. But then, simultaneously, it is important that programs are initiated in the field of mobility system, in the field of fire control system, in the field of armament, to have the indigenous versions ready maybe after the first 50 tanks are rolled out. Otherwise, what are we doing? We are actually going back in time, because, see, at least in the Arjun, you had the main armament that was indigenous. In the light tank, you are ending up with everything which is imported. So I think, this is one area where we can actually advise these MSMEs with how to use the government's funding which is available through IDEX and through the technology development fund, and go about creating these capabilities within the country. Of course, it will need coordination with the agencies which are into manufacturing the light tank. But I think this is the way forward, because if we're going for everything imported and commit the same mistakes which we had done earlier, we will be creating more of a liability than an asset in fielding this light tank. The next point I feel is, that as a forum, we must have one strong core competency with which we should get identified. And here I feel that we are very well, we are blessed to have some members in our forum who have got a rich experience in the field of green energy and renewables. And there are some members who are working in the field of electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. So together, I feel that we could create an exclusive vertical on this Go Green initiative, which encompasses solar, which encompasses wind and hydrogen and things like that, because this is the future. So why not create a kind of a knowledge cache and a competency in this field? We can start off by trying to bring in the Go Green initiative within the army. And you are aware, most of our workshops are power hungry. You see the amount of power consumption that takes place, the amount of generators that are lined up there. All that can be replaced because they have huge spaces. Why not go in for solar and replace them with solar energy? Now, if not all over, at least let's try and do it on the western borders, where there's huge amount of space available and bright sunlight throughout the year. So possibly in small steps, if we start creating and incubating know-how in this field, it will hold us in good stead in the years ahead, and it will provide us that differentiation, because you have an MRO association, you have an association dealing with MRO in aviation. What is different that we are going to offer, what we can offer? So I feel that this is one area, the green energy section, where since we have the expertise of professionals who have worked there, we need to create this kind of a capability which will hold us in good stead in the years ahead. Then of course comes the I've already mentioned about MRO supply chain stabilization and expanding the source. We should not depend on a single source, because that single source also is now in some kind of a trouble and may take some time, some years to stabilize. One area where which comes to my mind is skill development. The kind of skill development which we, the MRO professionals, carry out within the military. We get the same rural stock from the Indian peasantry, and by virtue of the kind of competency development programs we have, we transform them into first-class technicians, be it in the field of avionics, airframes, be in the field of gunnery, be it in the field of engines, optoelectronics, computing, radars, whatnot. So we have a rich experience in this, and I am myself surprised why the Skill India program has not looked at the competency development model which the military uses. So from our side, from my side, I will propose that at least these Agniveers which will be coming out from the army in the next 3 to 4 years, if we can configure some kind of a skill development or a skill honing program for them, so that after they come out with some basic technical skills that is honed, then they can play a crucial role in developing the defense industry base within the country. So this is one area which possibly is where we can make forays and create a niche for ourselves. Apart from this, one of the most important things is for us to expand our membership. We could think of incorporating the serving professionals also, provided the security concerns are addressed. I mean, discussing confidential affairs should be a strict no-no, and if we can disseminate our knowledge to them also, the more people come to know about it, the better it will be, because they can use this knowledge to optimize and make their work more efficient. We can later look at corporate membership from companies who are looking at the MRO domain or the defense manufacturing domain, and that possibly will be quite helpful as far as getting our finances right, because all these activities which I have suggested or recommended, they require a little bit of financial support also. And of course, finally, I will say that we should renew our efforts to conduct that international MRO seminar. As I've mentioned, that 1 year we should look at conducting a big international MRO seminar, and the other year we should look at an indigenization seminar. So a combination of these two every alternate year, and it should be a physical seminar where we get the participation of a lot of people, because that will help us to move forward with more force and vigor in this field which we have taken up. So finally, summing up, I will say that I'm looking forward to the MRO forum to emerge as a kind of a influencer in the consolidation of the defense industry base, playing an advisory role in the transfer of technologies and MRO efforts, both within the country and outside. And the main purpose of the forum should remain that past mistakes should not be again committed, because they end up creating holes in your technology security. And with the kind of security landscape which is prevailing in the Indian Ocean region and on our northern borders, it is important that this aspect of comprehensive technology security is taken up seriously, and we ensure that at least through the medium of knowledge, dissemination of knowledge and experiences, these kind of mistakes are not repeated in future. So if in the end, finally, if we remain focused towards military industrial issues, consolidate MRO forum as a knowledge-based organization, create a battery of specialists, knowledge leaders, and teams in various disciplines, I think the forum will be well poised to play a significant role in the country's march towards self-reliance. And all this will help India to emerge stronger and prosperous, and possibly join the first world nations, as somebody has recently put it. It is all about creating a differentiation using knowledge and wisdom, which we have in plenty in the forum. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been a singular pleasure listening to you, as it has always been. And yes, with your guidance, I'm sure we will be able to redouble our efforts to taking our nation higher and higher, and by contributing towards the growth of its defense industrial base in every way. And this comprehensive technical security which you mentioned, we will do our best to help in every way to contribute towards it. And through the ideas and the thoughts which you have just mentioned, it's evident, as it has always been. I think the viewers will also appreciate the wealth of experience and knowledge which you bring, and the scholarly work which you have done over the years, it's all emerging through what you have been saying. I think embedded in many places in our conversation today are clarion calls, which you have said, given with absolute detail. And I'm sure those who are listening to it from that point of view would hear those clarion calls, and I hope they listen to them and then they pursue them. Of course, we as a platform are available, and the interview with you today, 1 year of completion of our platform, the very reason for creating such a platform is now getting really bolstered and underlined and endorsed, because otherwise this wealth of knowledge which you're having, sir, it would while we may have it in an article written somewhere or a talk given somewhere, but like this through on our channel, on our YouTube channel, now it's available to many people who can take guidance from it. And I'm sure our members, when they listen to what you're saying, will also be guided. And this is giving us a direction which we'll pursue, sir, within our resources. As I mentioned, that we are getting supported by handysolver.com, which Rahul is running. So we are thankful to them, because that really releases us to do a lot of work without having to look at that aspect. And so you have established clearly the need for what we need to do. There are so many very strong points which you have made, and there's a need. We cannot just sit back. And I think through this, there is hope also that we will be able to contribute more. And more importantly, like you mentioned, the expanding the base. I agree with you, sir, that and we urge all MRO professionals who are listening to what General NB has said today to join us. And our platform is available to all of you. And don't leave this wisdom, especially as a veteran or wherever you have served, in whichever, whether it's a civil or military. Don't keep it with you. Share it through this forum. You are welcome. It's all your membership is free. There's no charge. You just come and try to give your views so that we can even get fine-tune our future even better than that. So viewers, with that, we come to an end of this interview with our patron, Lt Gen NB Singh. And we thank you for being with us. The links to our various the profiles, General NB Singh's profile and other links are there in the show notes below. Do subscribe to our channel if you feel that this is of use to you. And we look forward to bringing more such interviews and panel discussions and other formats to you. And as I was urging earlier, we urge all MRO professionals to join our platform. And now we will bring this interview to a close. Thank you for listening. Jai Hind.